I didn't sleep a wink the night before, still struggling with Danette's death. I thought maybe if I had let her in my house, she wouldn't have been shot and killed. Just 4 short days ago, life was so different. So much has changed since the EMP hit, devastated my city, and what I assumed was the rest of the country. I miss the air conditioning. My mercury thermometer was reading 84 degrees inside my house already this morning. I couldn't help to think down the road to wintertime. New York winters were harsh and unforgiving. If there was a blessing, it was this happened now instead of in January. I had 2 Mr. Buddy heaters and about 51 1-pound propane tanks. That was the only heat source we'd have come winter. By now the food in the refrigerator and freezer had spoiled. We'd eaten as much chicken and meat as we could, knowing it would soon go to waste. The ice in the Yeti cooler had long melted too. It's funny, it's the little things you miss first. No more ice cubes means no more cold drinks. When it's 90 plus degrees out, a cold drink does wonders for the morale. I had often debated over getting a generator, but never got around to it. In a situation like this, a generator would be a double-edged sword. Sure, I could run my refrigerator on it, but they were noisy. Everyone in the neighborhood would hear it, and I'd have a giant target on my house. I missed taking a shower. We were now reduced to bathing in the pool. I had more than enough chemicals to keep it clean, but it wasn't the same as turning on the water and feeling it hit your face. My wife and kids were scared after the shooting in front of the house yesterday. They kept asking, what if more of them come? What if they come at night when we're sleeping? Sleep, I thought. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours since this began. I was drained physically and emotionally, but couldn't let them know that. They depended on me. Jack, Eddie, and I were going to have to come up with some kind of plan for night watch. I was going to need sleep eventually. After I gunned down the 3 marauders, I thought of Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead and the question he'd ask new people. How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why? I would now have to answer that question with 3 people. I reassured my family I wouldn't let anything happen to them. I told my wife she was in charge of meals. We'd use up what was in the pantry, cupboards, and garden first before digging into my food prep stashed in the basement. Between what was upstairs and in the basement, between the 4 of us, we had at least a year's worth of food. I went out on my deck to have a smoke, glanced at Danette's empty house. I had forgot all about the grill and the propane tank on her deck. Another 30-pound tank would be huge. I decided to go and grab it. In all the chaos burying the bodies in the backyard, I had also forgot about her garden, which is double the size of mine. Cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, watermelons. It was a huge score. I'd picked up a Mosin Nagant that the marauders had shot and killed Danette with. 7.62 by 54R was not a caliber I had stocked. There were 3 rounds left in the magazine. Finding some more ammo for it would be a top priority. I also pulled a Beretta 90 series pistol off them, chambered in 9mm with a 17+1 capacity. The mag was fully loaded. This was a tremendous score. I had applied for my pistol permit 7 months ago and still been waiting on it. Where I'm from in New York, it wasn't unusual to have to wait over a year. In a WROL event, I no longer needed a piece of paper to carry a sidearm. My wife was worried about her mother. It had been 4 days since they last spoke. Her mother only lived a mile and a half away. She was the closest in proximity to any of our family members. From the look in her eyes, I could tell she wanted me to make the trek to her apartment and try and bring her back. She knew the danger that it would involve. What was I to do? Refuse her request and risk everything to try and reunite the two of them? I radioed Jack and Eddie to have them meet me to discuss my intentions and also set up plans for a security watch at night. The two of them came over, both armed. You did not walk outside without some sort of protection now. I had split the garden score from Danette's yard up to give each of them some fresh fruit and vegetables. I couldn't take care of the whole neighborhood, but was damn sure going to take care of both of them. Our first matter to discuss was night watch. We decided the three of us would alternate each night standing guard. Jack was in his early 70s, but was in better shape than me. I had no reservations. He was a tough old SOB who could handle his own. Eddie, in his early 50s, and armed with the Maverick 88 I had given him, would take the first night. I told him my plans to venture the 1.5 miles to my mother-in-law's. It was fast approaching dinner time, and we all agreed it would be best for him to move under the cover of darkness to make the journey. Eddie would come stay at my house with my family while I was gone. At that moment, we heard a rumble in the sky. It was fast approaching. It was a group of fighter jets flying very low, buzzing over rooftops. I wasn't sure if they were American fighter jets or foreign. They were so low to the ground, my house was shaking. We immediately headed inside for cover. I decided to check the ham radio to try and find any info. I turned it on. I heard the United States government was in the process of setting up FEMA camps in every major metropolitan city with a population of over 225,000. They said the military and National Guards had been depleted by the lack of manpower and resources. There were also reports of marauders and assailants blocking roads and killing the unprepared who were wandering for help. Some sick form of survival of the fittest, I guess. At that moment, the broadcast cut out and an emergency alert played. What follows explains the fighter jets. Things just went from bad to a whole hell of a lot worse.
We interrupt our programming. This is a national emergency. Important details will follow. The following messages transmitted at the request of the United States government. A foreign invasion has begun in the northeastern United States. At 10:17 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, several Russian fighter planes attacked several targets, including the cities of, but not limited to, Boston, Portland, New York City, Trenton, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Scranton. The North American Aerospace Defense Command reports that a second and much larger wave of Russian fighter planes and bombers is inbound. The United States Air Force has been dispatched to intercept the incoming Russians, while the National Guard is working on those already in the United States. All residents in the northeastern United States should shelter in place now. All other Americans should remain vigilant and be prepared to seek shelter or evacuate at any time. Remember to keep all necessary supplies, such as food, water, clothing for a few days, medical supplies, and a battery-powered radio. Remember, in the event that you lose power, tune your battery-powered radio to 770 amp for information during this emergency. The President is currently being taken to safe shelter and is expected to speak within the next few hours. Stand by for this message.